Welcome to Monday. It's the 7th day of February 2020. This Day Weather Podcast being brought to you by Chugwater Chili, the gourmet spice of Western life. Check out the Chugwater Chili Green Chili Seasoning. It's quick, it's easy to make. Never before has it been easier to make a big pot of green chili. Go to chugwaterchili.com and use code ChugwaterDon for 20% off. Well, we've got high pressure this week, Chinook winds, and Alberta clippers. What we're going to see are ups and downs with temperatures this week. We're going to have Chinook conditions, which means it's going to be pretty mild at times, but these clippers will come through, bringing a little bit of weather. We have a little bit of a clipper system Wednesday, another one Friday and Saturday. Now, there's a lot of weather forecasts out there right now that have almost no precipitation in them this week. I don't think that's correct. I think these clipper systems are going to produce a little bit of weather, especially in the mountains. The models are having a difficult time right now across the northern hemisphere with the weather pattern. So expect things to change a little bit, at least what you're hearing and seeing with forecasts. As we get deeper into February, closer to March, these longer days, these shorter nights begin to start to impact conditions weather-wise. And that's one reason. As you get closer to these transition times, we're on the second half backside of winter, so things are going to be changing up a little bit. Now, we still see that next week and through the end of February, changes for a more active pattern in the western United States, including the West Coast, will be developing by next week and through the end of February and into early March. And we do have some new long-range data to show you in regards to what we're seeing out in the Pacific Ocean in terms of La Nina and sea surface temperature conditions. First of all, I got a great shot coming up out of the northern Bighorn Mountains, 8 inches of fresh snow with that Alberta clipper that came in Saturday and Saturday night. In fact, that clipper Saturday and Saturday night brought some snow to many of the high country areas of the region, and that left for a beautiful scene there. 48 inches of snow on the level in the northern Bighorns. As we take a look at the upper level pattern, we see little waves right here. There's a little bit of a system coming in tonight and Tuesday. This is going to make it windy. It doesn't have much weather with it, but it is going to kick up the wind a little bit. We've got a trough going through the Great Lakes. Dry, high pressure continues here in the desert Southwest as well as the West Coast. Chinook winds coming down and along and east of the divide going to make for a warmer than average temperature pattern in this area right here. From the Canadian Rockies to Montana to the Dakotas into the Plain States, the down-sloping winds as air rises over the Rockies, then sinks, you get a compression of the air. The air gets compressed, and that causes a warm-up. That's what causes a Chinook. So we've got this pocket of very mild temperatures that some of you will be experiencing today. So relative to average, this part of the area will be a lot colder than this part of the North American continent. So things are a little bit upside down right now. But notice we have cold air building up over Alaska again, and this is going to be a weather maker later on. As we go out to Wednesday, you see this little dimple right here? It doesn't look like much, but winds or loft are coming in from the north. So here we have another little Alberta clipper. That's going to swing on through, affecting areas east of the divide. And this is what it looks like potentially. There could be another little shot of snow up into the mountains, especially the Bighorns again, maybe even the Black Hills and the central mountains of Colorado and southern Wyoming. But as you can see out on the plains, well, there's not much, but there's more showing up on the new model runs than are what currently are in forecasts right now. So this is going to basically be Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Then a Chinook comes in and temperatures will warm up again. But Friday night into Saturday, here's another little wrinkle coming in from the north, another clipper. This is going to come south through the region. This looks quite similar to what just went through this past weekend. And so what it will do is cool areas off along the east of the divide, and there it goes again. Doesn't that look familiar? I mean, it's a really similar setup to where areas along and near the divide, the mountain areas get some snow showers, a little bit of snow shower activity reaches the plains, and temperatures turn a little bit cooler. Further west you go, there's really not much weather with it. But there is some disagreement, and this is where the models are having problems. So I'm going to show you a different solution. This solution right here is the American model. It has the high along the west coast, but it has more of a kink right there in the jet stream where that low is. The European model has a kink, but it's not nearly as strong. We still have basically the same pattern, but if you look at the precipitation forecast on the European model for Friday and the Saturday, well, it's more east of the divide and it's not as heavy, but it does bring a little bit of weather in right as we get started into the upcoming weekend. Now, further out, let's talk about longer term. So as we get just past Valentine's Day Monday, high pressure growing and getting more robust and also drifting a little more west by this time frame early next week. So in about a week from today, we start to see a low diving in out of British Columbia and moving south into the region. This is going to instigate a bit of a change in the overall total global, at least northern hemisphere pattern. This is by the 19th of February. Now, if this happens, okay, not saying this will happen, but if we see this high pressure continuing to go a little more west in the Pacific, what will happen is southwest winds will bring a big warm up to the east coast and almost a spring-like situation. But the penetration of the really cold Canadian air gets further west, dives into the Great Basin. You've got yourself a big area of low pressure coming in, and you've got a big pool of Arctic air as well right around the end of the week after this one. So we're talking about this is a week from this Saturday. So we have to put a big question mark on this. So what I'm showing you is the potential is there. Not saying it's going to happen, but it's on the table. So from a long-term perspective, we've got to watch this. Why? Because this is what could happen. If that pattern does evolve, you have yourself a mid-February Arctic outbreak again. Don't know if this is going to happen. I'm not convinced yet, but it's, as I said, it's on the table. And this will be something that we're going to need to keep an eye on as we hit that third week of February. And if you look at precipitation over the next 15 days, notice this. Notice rains and snows moving back into the west coast in California, into the Great Basin states. Notice the heavier snows are going to maybe return to the central and northern Rockies of the United States. It really has been very little snow in the mountains, really. It's come in little bits and pieces here and there, but we haven't seen heavy mountain snow accumulations since that big burst we had in December and early January. I do think by the latter half of February into early March, the snowpack is going to get a big boost with the pattern getting busier again. But for another week or so, it's basically where we've been with these clippers. Let's take a look at the newest European model. This is the model that updates once a month, early in the month. And what I'm showing you is the projections of sea surface temperature anomalies across the globe. This is for the month we're in right now. So you see the blue right here, and then more importantly, you see the green. So while La Nina, technically speaking, is not in a strong phase, it's a weak La Nina, it's still there. And as we go through the rest of February, it's still there. Now let's step 1 month at a time, and you'll notice some things going on. So this is March. Notice the green goes away, but we still have blue during the month of March here. So the change in sea surface temperature anomalies isn't great, but there's some improvement. And notice the colder than average sea surface temperatures up here in the Gulf of Alaska along the west coast of Canada, also now getting along the west coast as well. This is for March. This is for April. So the change from March and April is subtle, but notice, especially right here, we're starting to see temperatures beginning to moderate more. Also, we're seeing this warm patch here growing a little bit more as well. So this is, let's go back, March, April. Now let's look at May. By May, we start to see a warm patch forming. And by this time, El Nino and La Nina goes into what we call a neutral phase. It's not going to be a La Nina anymore. It'll be what we call neutral. But we still see a tendency for those colder waters to still be there, which is impactful. Then by June, we start to see more warmer temperatures right near the equator. So what we've been telling you over the last few months, that La Nina was going to reach its peak and weaken, is still on track, but it's going to weaken really slowly. We're not going to have an El Nino this summer. It's just not going to happen. But the tendency, the trend is going to be for those sea surface temperatures to begin to drop a little bit. We would like to see this area, if we want to get rid of these cold sea surface temperatures, growing a little bit. But right now, if this happens for June, this is better than we were June a year ago. Also, you see this area of orange right here? off the Baja of California. We're going to be starting to watch this area carefully, especially sea surface temperature anomalies there, as that will help basically give us a long-range forecast of what the summer monsoon season might be like. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. That's a couple of months away, but that's the next area we're going to be watching carefully. Have yourself a good Monday. We'll see you Tuesday.